All right, we're live once again. So excited to be back with everyone. Had a little bit of a break there as I took some vacation, which was wonderful. Ended up in Maui for our 10-year anniversary. So, you can't beat that. So, but glad to be getting back and talking all things AI right now, which is what the rest of the world is doing. So I thought I'd join in as well. But have met some incredible experts in what I've been calling our Masters in AI series as we put this together. And one of those that I met, it was last fall, I believe, was Brad Moss, the founder and CEO of Enhanced AI. And I'm going to just share my perspective. Feel free to share yours, Brad. But I had been invited to speak at Utah Valley University. They were running an AI summit and had been doing a panel talking about my perspectives on the opportunities impact, community impact side of it, as well as, artificial intelligence from a technology perspective. How do these things tie together? Which was a really amazing event to do and to be able to speak on. But as I was leaving, Brad came running out of the building and was like, Trina, I need to talk to you. And I'm so glad you caught me before I jumped in my car because we've had a lot of different interactions now over the last 6 or so months. I think it's been, Brad,
Yeah.
since we met, and have had some amazing conversations, been able to learn a lot more about enhanced AI and start partnering with his company on bringing the opportunities for workplace productivity, for automation, for all of these things to my clients, which has been wonderful to be able to start doing these implementations and seeing the opportunities are there. So we're going to connect. So Brad, I maybe do a quick introduction of yourself and why you're involved in this space. Maybe a little bit of your background as well would be helpful for the audience to hear.
Yeah, for sure. So, my background, I built 60 video games in my career before for all the big guys, Disney, EA, and all those guys. And then I went back and I went to business school, and out of business school, I went to Amazon. And at Amazon, I ran the third-party selling platform. So I basically went from kind of small tech development to really big tech development at
Mhm.
Amazon. And it was really big systems, interconnected, massive systems. I think they say they stored more data than any government or anybody else in the world
Amazing.
over at Amazon. And then I ran the third party selling marketplace platform for a while. And then I built a new business for Amazon. And at that point, I was like, okay, I'm done making Jeff Bezos a lot of money. It was like a new billion-dollar business we generated. Um, but I'm very entrepreneurial and spirit. And I left. I built a company that helped other companies buy and sell inside of the Amazon ecosystem.
Mm.
So e-commerce, and we did everything with public companies down to private companies. But that company eventually sold. And when I sold that company, I'm like, okay, I want to get back into a little more tech. And I was trying to solve some operational problems. Like ultimately, I do love the video game industry that I was in. I actually liked them. I went to film school for my undergrad, by the way.
Oh,
So
wow. Yeah.
I'm a crazy like right left brainer. I actually kind of love them both. Math is always my favorite subject, but I went to film school, so go figure.
The
Um,
art and the science, you gotta have
yeah,
both, right? Those design the best systems anyway.
yeah. Well, I don't know. It's yeah. So I just don't know which one to choose. I guess maybe that's what it is. But the so when I left, I wanted to, I sold my company. I was like, okay, I want to explore some technology again. And there's an operational problem. Video games are super fun to build, are super fun, but like the business is terrible. And it's all about operational efficiency, right? Like how much
Mhm.
time are you spending? Are you getting the right product, the right ROI to people, et cetera? And I'd seen a lot of companies just make these really big mistakes, bigger companies, of just spending too much money
Yeah.
in process development.
Yeah.
Because with games, it's super like first of all, with games, I've built more unique and innovative technology inside of games than anywhere else that ever, like, I worked for Disney. We did stuff for Disney Imagineering. The studios came to us. They're like, we want a game dev company to do this because no one else is creative to like accomplish these weird things that we have that we're trying
Yeah.
to do. So I did a lot of innovative stuff there, but um, with games, like you just don't. the ROI, like you have to iterate on the concept a lot before you know it's good,
Mhm.
or before you can actually prove it's good. So it was like this high iteration process, and I was trying to figure out how to optimize this. Like, how do you iterate through the game development cycle? And I stumbled across GPT. I had a really good buddy of mine who he's now done his $4 billion game franchise that he's been
Wow.
a part of, which was the more recent Warner Brothers Studios here in Salt Lake that did that Hogwarts game.
Mm.
Um, and he told me, he's like, hey, there's this AI, generative AI stuff. Or he's like, there's this AI stuff. I was like, yeah, I know, I've done lots of AI stuff. He's like, no, it's this generative AI stuff. I was like, oh, what's this? And it was GPT 2.5, and we hooked into the APIs, and I was like, oh, this is really kind of cool.
Mhm.
Why aren't more people doing this? But then I started and that was my first introduction to AI, before the whole big craze came out. And what we went to build was a really good streamlined process. And Netflix and Microsoft were both really interested in it. We met with them multiple times, but then as I was doing it, I was like, well, this is just kind of one application, but this technology is so powerful. I don't want to just
Mhm.
build one application. And maybe this is my Amazon brain kicking in, where it's
Yeah.
like scale, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, well, let's build a platform, because I know for me personally, I want to be able to build 1,000 different things, not just one.
Yeah. Just one and then be stuck in a box.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or and sometimes that's good, right? Because you can dive deep, but still, like, it's early technology, early exploratory stuff. And so I'm like, well, let's build a platform where I can just build and create almost these AI. Now we're saying, it's the term AI agents is everywhere.
Yeah.
Essentially, that's what we were doing 3 years ago.
Yeah.
It's a platform that you could build AI agents without a technical background, where it's for a business person to be able to jump in and chain together different prompts and engines and other systems, from across the web, and they can just build their own agent on their own, and no real technical expertise needed. The back end would take care of all of that,
Yeah.
and that's, yeah. So that was my introduction, and I've been doing this for, last 3 years.
And what I love about it, and we're going to show some of these because that's the one thing I'm getting back feedback on these sessions is great. AI is great. I get it. Show me something. So I told Brad, I'm like, we're going to show something. So stay tuned. Brad's actually going to walk through some of these. So you can actually conceptualize this in your own role. And I think that's what a lot of people are missing. It's like, okay, I get it, but give me something I can actually dig into and go, oh, I see now how this can affect my role. And what I love that enhanced AI is doing is that a lot of times, and this came up for me today. I'm going to just kind of show this tackling business bloat, right? There's two things, like Brad, you mentioned on your as a business, you're doing one of two things. You're driving growth, right? Revenue, and then profitability. You're hitting those two things, and really the profitability side is the productivity gains that you're going to get by optimizing processes with the people and enhancing the people that you currently have and their roles. And so what I when I started to see the power of what enhanced AI is doing is it's a middleware. I guess I'm going to call it that. I don't know if I'm
Yeah.
coining that correctly.
No, I think I mean, us who grew up in the 90s and
Yeah,
experienced the 90s, that was when the term like came about. Yeah.
yeah, kind of. And my background in enterprise software, that's where I'm like, that's the way I see
Yeah.
it. Is you have your front end user interfaces, you have a middleware layer, and then you have the back end data sources and everything else that are feeding this. And being able to pull from anywhere, being able to switch and have the flexibility to be able to say, okay, it's ChatGPT right now, but it might be Grok, it might be DeepSeek, it might be being able to switch between these models as the AI revolution is happening so quickly. You need a scalable, flexible platform, and then being able to work and tackle this business bloat for your processes, your unique processes, rather than here's how the general public does it, which a lot of SaaS systems do, right? They say, here's how we see you should do it. It doesn't always work. And they're always fighting against this. Here's how everybody else does it. Here's how we do it. This gives you the flexibility to say, here's how we want to do it. And
Yeah.
I think that's really exciting about what you've built with enhanced AI.
Yeah, it's I think this goes into some of this, this trend that's happening with AI. Like what's one of the powers, and I would say, if you actually kind of look at the definition of middleware, it's kind of this software that takes care of all the dirty work underneath of all the connections and dealing with systems changing and configurations changing. This stuff happens underneath everything. And if you don't have a middleware system, like the front end engineers have to deal with all these constant changing things. And that's
Mhm.
why middleware as a whole, like layer exists, where there's tons of services that are middleware. And basically they just deal with the garbage underneath that you don't want to deal with. And they make it nice and streamlined so you can just do what you want to do. But what we're seeing is that kind of the whole software stack is changing with AI. And there was this discussion. Microsoft CEO said, "Hey, SaaS is dead." A bunch of the Y Combinator guys are saying SaaS is dead. Agents are the future. And even Facebook, Zuckerberg said, SaaS is dead a while ago. And the question is like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
And in analyzing it, to me, it's SaaS is like any software is like three simple things. You have like your data stack, you have your data layer, you have your logic layer, and then your UI layer. And it's
Mhm.
basically like those three things.
Mhm.
And data is not really changing.
No, you still need your data sources.
Still need your data. There's a
Yeah.
little things that are changing, but not really, not majorly. But the logic layer can now be completely what used to take you 2 to 3 months to do, or even a year to build the right logic of software. All of a sudden, you can do like that. Like you
Right.
literally can do it in a few seconds
Right.
with AI. So now that whole layer is completely like removed. Like the cost to do that layer is removed.
Right.
Um, and so now it's like, oh, that's why SaaS is dead, because you can actually put an AI in there, and then your logic can change or evolve based on what customers are even wanting. So that
Right.
whole piece is like completely shifting, and it's really hard to wrap your head around how that impacts everybody, but it is like we're watching this kind of slowly roll out,
Yeah.
impacting people. Like, oh wait, and the companies who are more, you know, forward thinking, they're changing their logic layers quickly and quicker, and they know that AI can do a lot of this logic for them when they manage it the right way.
Yeah. And that's what we're seeing as well is I think that getting over the overwhelm, right? And really plugging into, okay, same thing you would do in like, Six Sigma background is like, okay, where are we seeing the biggest opportunity for productivity improvement? Let's target those, then see how we leverage AI and kind of prioritize like one at a time. And having a platform like enhanced AI allows you to then, okay, now how do we build this one and this one? And you start to just kind of scale up over time,
Mm-hmm.
rather than trying to do a 6 to 18 month project. Let's go in and dig into it. It gives you a lot more agility in
Yes.
your delivery.
Yeah. And then there's actually a lot of other waterfall kind of repercussions from this too. One of the other interesting things I don't think we'll get into, but maybe a future point, is I actually see the whole UI layers completely changing in how we're doing software, because
Mm.
UI layers were designed to work with humans and these rigid logic layers, right?
Yeah,
It's a three
yeah,
stack thing. The logic layer had to work a certain way to get UI to come in, to get the data in, to run through the logic the way it's designed, and then it had to push it down into the data layer.
right,
Now, if the logic layer is so flexible and so quick, UI can now be flexible and quick.
right,
And we're talking with companies, they're like, well, why do I even have forms anymore?
right.
Like the most basic thing, it's like, why not just talk to a chatbot,
Agents.
and
Yeah,
it's going to just talk to you and get all the information you need. And
yeah.
like,
Sure.
that's a different UI. That's amazing, right?
It
Like in
is
some
the
cases, it's
conversational AI. I mean, that's we are going to do a whole other segment. Maybe this next week or two. I actually am working with another company doing some of these agentic sales and call center agents. And it is amazing. It's like, oh, wait, I can get rid of this whole slow process of gathering information and scheduling calls and doing it's just like that fast. It's like, okay,
yeah,
I've got it, follow up, and what's interesting is like I went to a conference in DC a couple weeks ago for higher education. I do a lot of work with various universities, and they're starting to use it for donor outreach, and they've had really
yeah,
high response rate
yeah.
where people actually donate, they're seeing their donor rates go up because the AI has better conversations than the humans. Like,
Yes.
that is incredible, right? To see the power of like that client engagement side with an AI agent. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah.
pretty, it's
It's
amazing.
and that's I'm actually really excited for the UI guy, for people in the UI space and UX,
Yeah.
and what are they doing? I don't think it's really hit them yet, because I don't think the software teams have caught up to really hit the UX guys. But I think there's like they're always the creatives anyway,
Yeah.
right? The real creatives here, and I think there's so much more really fascinating ways of doing UX
Yeah.
and UI that I think they're gonna it's going to show forth as as a couple of these guys really embrace it with the right kind of
Yeah.
stack in their software.
Yeah.
But
The
anyway,
downstream, it's pervasive. There is
yeah,
nothing that hasn't been touched, right? And so it's how much or how little at this point. It's this journey's been incredible to watch, even this last year and a half or so.
yeah, yeah,
So
definitely.
do you want to jump into some
Yeah,
examples? Are you ready?
yeah. I could jump into some, and let me say, this other just one more comment here
Okay.
about software. In that, if you think about, again, I just think a lot about how this hits macro, from a macro perspective. With software, with the logic layer being so cheap, like what does that do?
Oh
And a
yeah.
lot of it, and this streamlines into it goes into what we're talking about here. But think about if software is no longer expensive to build, right? It becomes cheaper to build, which means there's like a lot more customization. And if it's easier to build too, where a company can go in and build their own process the way they want it.
Right.
People have worked on software and these UX layers that are like really complex to make things really simple. But now with AI and the logic layer being so simple to just code,
Yeah.
and prompt, essentially, that now anyone can go in there and create their own process and their own systems
Yeah.
the way they want it. And I think there's some really interesting repercussions for a lot of vertical SaaS, but I think it's what we all want anyway. Everyone wants individualized content, and they want their own systems to work the way they want to
And they
work, the
want.
way they'd like to work.
Yeah,
And
that's interesting because this has been the ever, in my 30 years in tech, that was always the battle of like the business wanted to own the systems because they knew how they wanted it built, but they didn't have the understanding of how to build good systems,
mhm.
right? And so then we'd end up reverting and swinging back to the tech teams to do the cleanup, I would say.
Yeah,
But now I think it's shifting to where it does better enable better output because you're getting that guidance from the AI on how this should be structured the right way, how the
yeah,
UI should be the right way, how the data, feeds into those. That's a really interesting point I had never considered before of like who owns the systems for the business units that are going to be consuming them.
yeah, yeah. And the businesses themselves, in many cases, can just build their own without
Yeah,
the tech team's involvement, because AI is just so flexible and powerful. If once the business folks understand how to use it, I like to consider this whole process like Excel. And so let me start. I can share, kind of present my
you want to
screen here.
start on the marketing ones first here?
Yeah, let's jump. This
Okay.
is kind of a fun one that I did with an old customer. Speaking of video games, these guys make they're indie developer publisher that I worked with years ago. Awesome guys out of the UK, and they're doing some really fun games. And I just love the stuff they do. I've worked with them. Um, okay, so my screen is sharing here. Sorry, I'm just loading it up. So I like to consider this on that point almost like Excel, in that like the first time you load up a spreadsheet, you're like, what is this? Like there's cells. Oh wait, now there's formulas. And obviously there's some people who are whizzes with Excel. There's some people who are just like, yeah, they just get the basics and they can use it for what they need to use it for.
Right.
I consider this very similar to Excel. It's like a new kind of language or a new way of interacting that's like incredibly powerful and useful when you get it. And there's some who are just going to be, off the charts good at it, and others who will just be like decent, and it's fine. Like you can accomplish what you need to with it. So this is our system that we built, started building, like I said, about 3 years ago. and we call it Flux Prompt. And what it is we are pulling together, this whole platform pulls together 150 different AI systems into one place. So now I'll pull out just a simple text generator. These are like the basic pieces. This is like a chat system, or like if you load up ChatGPT or one of the other ones, where I can put something in here. I can say, hey, write me an AR email for a customer. We all don't like those. Who is 90 days late, right? And I can run the prompt. But right here, so this is the prompt I just prompted in there. But here is the system that I'm using. So I can use Anthropic, Gemini, OpenAI, any of their models and systems, Perplexity, Grok. Anyway, some of the most powerful systems and the prominent systems out there. So you can quickly swap, because with AI, there's different strengths with different systems. Some are a little bit better than others. There's a lot of technical
evaluate on the fly, which is great, because usually what I've seen clients doing is they'll like, okay, pull them all up in different tabs and try and run it again. This one you can just quickly flip and go, oh, this is the one that I'm getting the right output for my expectations.
Yeah, exactly. So let me just throw that in here real quick, right? So I could say, hey, this is my prompt, and I'm gonna say, I'm gonna put it, there's my prompt. I'm just gonna hook this little box into the prompt of all three of these, and we'll say this one is, we'll just do Gemini, and then this last one we'll do OpenAI. 4.0, sure. And I could take this exact same prompt and then just run it in all three. I don't even have to rewrite the prompt, and it's just running in all three. And then I could evaluate the output. I could chain this to something else, and I'll show you in a second, like some of these other pieces. But that's the point of this platform, is to be able to use AI as flexibly as you need to. Like, we're all about streamlining, making it so easy and so fast to build these AI agents, and without deep technical understanding. Like, I've always been a big fan of Apple and Nintendo, are probably like the two big ones, in that they take really complex stuff and make them really simple to understand. And I learned some of those principles at Amazon. We would read these papers, write a lot of papers, but when we'd write them, and they're like, hey, if a fourth grader can't understand your paper, it's not good enough. It's just not well written.
Right.
And that was the principle. And then I learned all my college professors were like, just not smart, or they just wrote, maybe they wrote too complex. That's what we would have said at Amazon. But the whole principle is like, you got to simplify. If you simplify, it means you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
And the same thing is like, let's try and simplify this. And now this may look complex at first. Again, it's like you're learning Excel for the first time, right?
Right.
But at the end of the day, I'm using three big systems, and I did within 5 seconds.
Right.
I hooked up a prompt and have three comparisons I can do between these three.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like, sorry, did you have a question?
No, I love the layout though, because the it's like if you've done Figma or process design, this is what you're doing from an automation perspective, whether you're in marketing, sales, customer service, HR, like you're building these processes to go step-by-step logic through how you would automate this, and then tying in AI where needed.
Yes.
Because it's not an AI play for everything. And so you have process automation for the key points that then feed into the next step, the next step, the next step. You pull in AI here at the beginning, but then it feeds into the next. You process, you move it to the next automation.
Yes.
And so like just the drag and drop you did to just tie those steps together as you go through this flow.
Yes. Yeah. I love it. And that's why we built it this way. Actually, process automation has been around since, I think there's an old Bible with actually someone writing like process automation back in like the 1400s or something. Like it's very common way of thinking, and it's actually just clean, right? It's just like so much easier to dupe. Even when you're coding, it's like you got to dedupe your logic somehow. And people put in a debugging step where you go step by step and watch what it's doing. Like you just got to know process and how it works across. Briefly, and now I'm not going to go through all the details of the tool set, but just want to showcase the text generator is the main piece. You put a prompt in, you could, as you see, I could connect it to here, or I could just write it itself. I also, persona is who the AI is. So like you can, right here, I'm just going to say, you are an angry accountant. and it's going to load it in all three, and we'll see just kind of how all three perform, right? And obviously you normally go through and scrutinize a lot of this, but
changing the tone and who it's from and all of those details, I think that what it does is it actually teaches you how to write good prompting.
yeah,
Because you've prompted the prompter, I guess is the way
yeah,
I would put it, right? Of like, here's the prompt, but what's your content? What are you adding in? What are your instructions? What's the persona? Like all the things they teach a really good prompt engineer, you've outlined in just like a feed it in kind of
yeah.
format.
Yeah, and that's very purposeful in that as we analyze at the very beginning, like what makes a good prompt, it's really like the prompt is mainly the task that you're doing. Then you got the context or the content that you want to
Mm-hmm.
add in addition to it, and then any instructions, which could be the format, the examples, other particular instructions you want to give it, and it makes it always there. Now you could always put all that in the prompt itself, but just having it in the UI just helps remind and make it simple for people to write a good prompt, and you know what you're doing. Just helps with organization.
Yeah.
And then, and I haven't even quite shown. So like the output of this, I could actually then take another generator and throw it in here. And I could take the output and put it in my context and then say, hey, rewrite this in Spanish. Right. And so now I'm building these chains together. And this one, it now, does the email and then rewrites it and makes it an angry accountant and then rewrites it all in Spanish. I could have it rewrite it in JSON, right? I could make another box that actually splits it out. So but that's what I mean by the logic layer. These are all logic things I'm doing really quickly,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I'm just using AI to do it. I could say, you could do just about anything, but it just rewrote the whole thing in a JSON format. Now, I didn't give it particular structure. It came up with its own, but
Yeah.
I could give it that instruction. And now all of a sudden I've just built this like really sophisticated system that would have taken me, like 2 weeks to build from traditional engineering,
Right.
to get right. And now it's using AI to just take care of all the logic right away.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to erase. That's some of the basics. We have image generators for generating pictures, an image reader, so you can take any picture and ask it questions about the picture, or like scan receipts, things like that. Audio voice generators, voice transcribers. We transcribe audio calls, sales calls. I might show you if we have time to show you an example there. YouTube videos, we transcribe them all the time. So like sometimes, we take a video we've done and we put it in here, and then we now make a blog with it. We just like,
Yeah.
here's our video.
Repurposing content from a marketing perspective, right? The time it takes to repurpose a piece of content into another format, and just it can go through and do all of those formatting.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So it's so fast to just build your own logic. Now there's some vertically built softwares that are doing this, but then all of a sudden you're like, well, but I want to do this with it too. And when you just build your own, and it's actually so simple, you can build your own to do the same thing, but now you can customize like all those little things that you really wanted to do, and you can add additional steps to it, right? Like maybe you
Yeah.
want to take what you're doing, then search the internet, see if someone else had a reference that's similar, and then include that in your blog,
Yeah.
right?
What's interesting about what you're saying there, because this is what I'm seeing, is that we're being tooled to death. Like there is a tool now, an AI tool platform for every use case. And when you start to add up each one of those systems, it's like, oh, I have this use case, this system. I have this use case, this system. I have this. Those dollars start to add up, but you're going to creep out all of your workplace productivity and profitability gains that you were seeking by just getting a tool for every process. And then I'm going to add to it here. Not only are you challenged with that, but then when you start to get all of those tools, you are not in control of which AI platform they're using on the back end.
Yep.
The cost that might come up based on what they've decided from an architectural perspective, the timing for delivering any kind of enhancements or changes. And I was joking the other day with you, Brad, but I think the naming of your company is that it's enhanced AI because you're able to enhance quickly, you're able to adapt, and you're not beholden to somebody else's architectural ideas.
Yeah.
You're the one in charge, because you get down the road, you have an off the shelf AI product that you're not in control of, and you want to go make another productivity change. You just got to wait.
Yeah. Or yeah, you got to wait for someone else to do it or bug their
Yeah.
dev team, and
And then you're
maybe it
back
doesn't.
to where we started,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So
that's right.
it just, to me, that, and I think that's where everybody's been like coming to me and saying, well, which tool for this, which tool for that? And I'm like, let's just build your own more easily, right? To
Yeah,
your needs.
just build your own faster. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think that's one of the, like, I just get bombarded. I mean, everyone's getting overwhelmed by tools and
Yeah.
subscription fees and everything for all of this stuff. And that's why my mind, we have plenty of clients who've come in and they're like, we just want them all in one spot. Like, I just got pitched by 50 different companies. Yours, basically, we can do all of them. So
Right.
let's just put it in here so we can manage it and we can see everything that's going on. And we got to learn a little more, but it's
Yeah.
really just
Still some
empowering us.
upskilling, right? You're
Yeah.
gonna have to do that with any tool or
Yep.
any
Yeah, really, almost every tool you're doing.
Upskilled no matter what, right?
Uh-huh.
That's key.
That's exactly. Yeah, totally. So, and let me show you this work. Let me actually finally jump into a workflow.
Yeah.
We have a bunch of different ones. But just briefly to round out the left side, there's data connectors. You can do all the vector database stuff for those who know what that is. You can connect to your SQL database, Google Sheets and files. We even have a CRM integration. Then you have the web searching stuff, a web page scraping, so you can scrape pages. All this fancy functionality that you were talking about. Sometimes you need AI, sometimes you don't.
Mm-hmm.
We have the whole scripting node, so you can just write in a bunch of code that you want that does a huge chunk of what you want, and then pass it into AI to do other things. We have simpler stuff like functions, like all the Excel functions. And then once you're done with everything, we also have an API caller, so you can basically call any system that has an online connection. So we're talking to U.S. Census data. We're talking to huge systems from any company that has APIs. Basically, most big companies have an API of some sort. Yeah. And so we're able to get data in and out really easily. And all of these flows that we build, you can basically you can trigger them to run on a daily basis. Like there's this auto trigger. You can trigger them to run, let's see, hourly, daily, weekly, or monthly on some kind of a calendar. Or you can call them from an email. So like you can just email the flow. It has an email address. Or you can hook it up as an API into any system that you currently have. So we're trying to make it really flexible. Again, this is the middleware logic layer. Right. And like you can just configure your logic really easily.
So if I were to add on to that a little bit, so let's say you have an existing CRM system, you could just build out a button that calls the API that runs it, and it goes. So you could call from wherever your workforce is currently working from, right? You don't need to replace systems. You don't need to, you just work from where you currently are and just enhance it from there.
Yeah, that's 100%. You get it. You get it. And we've hooked in, I have a sales call one where it's basically every time someone hangs up a phone call, 30 seconds later, it's already run through all this data and gives us rich information back to the sales agent of like how well they did. And it's all customizable. So let me show you this fun one that we did for this game publisher. I call it the hot topic marketing. We basically ask the AI first. We come up with the marketing topics basically to send out that day or to try out that day for social media or for some ads. And we're not actually, So we first say, hey, and this is a European company, what are the most hot topics that people are talking about? And we're using an AI model that's an online model called Perplexity. So Perplexity is connected to the live internet. And we're using that model to find out what people are talking about, but we're also doing other things. So we then actually go to Google Trends, which has different data than what Perplexity is giving me. And we're doing a Google trend search, and we're saying, hey, what are the latest trends of what's going on in the UK today, which was February 26th. And then so we now know what people are talking about. Like, so let's make our marketing relevant. And then we say, now let's here's the logic, create 5 ad ideas based on the following content, make it relevant to the product that we're making. And we actually come up with these 5. This is a video game that they created. It's like pre-order now and get ready to paint the town red, just like England's new manager, Thomas Tuchel. Right. I think it's a soccer reference. But anyway, there's it. So it's coming up with marketing content based on what people are talking about right
Yeah.
now
I'm searching on.
and searching on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the next step, and you see these little numbers, these are like how you chain together the steps. There's content, these pieces are content, but then there's these numbers. It's like this is a processor that's running something.
Okay.
And so the fourth step, we actually load in, we say, hey, choose the best one of these. So we actually having AI choose out of previous
Oh,
step of
so it's
AI.
doing the prioritization.
Yeah, it's doing the
Oh,
prioritization of those based on the game. So we actually also have scraped the web page for the game and gotten all of its content and then loaded that into here as well. So it knows what the game is and what we're talking about.
yeah.
And
So
it
it's
says,
got the context for the company and its services,
that's right.
whatever that company is, or, you know, you can put that focus on customizing it to you. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yep. And so it's taking all the relevant context and content and it's coming up with the best one. And it said, okay, here's the ad that we want to do. And then we say, create a Facebook ad based on the following message, create an Instagram ad, and create a Twitter post. So
Mm-hmm.
these are all they're very different, right? There's different rules for Twitter
Yeah.
versus Instagram versus Facebook. And this is a little bit longer one. Now, we've actually gone through, not in this flow, but we've actually had additional rules that we put in as instruction. Hey, this is what a Facebook ad should look like. It should be the title always, 15 characters and always with an emoji,
Kind
right?
of like templatized for what you're wanting. The same thing would happen like I know we're maybe going to talk about like blog writing, right?
Yeah.
And SEO and publishing directly. So you're just clicking a button, it does all of this.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And once you have it set up the way you want to do it, and it's really simple because you're just typing the prompts
Yeah.
for the logic, it then breaks it apart. And then I added these little lines in here to separate each one because I'm sending myself an email, and the email has the Facebook box, the Twitter, and the Instagram one.
Okay. And you could even
And
do
actually,
the images, right? Because
oh yeah,
you mentioned the image created, you could have the images all created and attached to each one of those as well.
yeah. So what we did here is we took an image from their web page,
Mm-hmm.
and then we said, hey, describe this style, including the colors and everything of this
Your
image.
branding
So,
point as well.
yeah, so it analyzed their branding, and actually we have way better branding examples. But this actually analyzed it, and it gave all the colors, color palette,
Oh,
and
that's
then
amazing. That's awesome.
with that we gave another prompt, this one, which says create an LLM prompt, create an image generation prompt, and here's the style, here's what the ad is about, the Facebook ad, and here's all the information of the we actually did this for 3 different images and got
Mm-hmm.
all the information back, fed that all in, and then it wrote its own. Again, it's just another logic. It just wrote its own LLM image generator prompt, and then
Mm-hmm.
it created, this image of this kitty with a sword and this neon
Nice.
neon thing. Now, this one, I mean, yeah, I mean, you can do a lot with images. This was
Right.
kind of a fun example, but
Yeah.
and we took that and threw that into the email too, as like an example to throw in there.
That's awesome.
We've done some really high end stuff with images, actually. These are just kind of a quick examples, but yeah. So every morning, the team wakes up, like, here's the content for the day, and here's what we can post, and here's a quick way of posting it. And now they're doing that in a matter of 15 minutes instead of an hour and a half or an hour.
Right.
Generate
Right.
the marketing content.
That's amazing.
So that's one example. A little similar example is a blog generator. So again, this is another marketing one.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm showing you way more complex ones just to kind of show you the full breadth.
What's interesting though, as you look at that, right, is breaking down people. You have to think about, like, what do I do every day? Like, you kind of got to step back before heading into these. Like, and as I've talked to some of my clients, it's like, oh wait, I have to kind of think about what I do rather than just doing it, because then you can go through and, like, figure out how each one of these boxes is a piece of work that somebody was doing at one point.
Yeah. And sometimes it's better because you realize that you're like, oh wait, I actually didn't do that one thing that I want to do. And you're like, let me just add a box that does
Yeah.
that thing.
Oh, yeah.
So you can improve on it. This one writes a blog every day, and we have the tone of the blog, the high level topic that we want to search and talk about, and then the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And with those three things, we do a similar thing where we actually do a Google search. This one's just, we're looking at latest articles that people have written about this general topic. And then we also ask an AI agent, Perplexity, about what people are talking about. And then with those two things, we then write a blog article about something we haven't. So we're storing everything we've written about before in this little thing. Every time we write, we log it in here.
Mm-hmm.
And then it uses all of that to know who our audience is and what the latest topics are. And it finds a topic it hasn't written about before and writes a new article. Now, we all know that AI is not great. Even people are not great the first time they write an article. No one is.
Right.
So we then take it and we rewrite it again, but we start focusing on the headline first, and we say, hey, make this more punchy and real. We use Gary Vee in our example of how we're prompting it. And it actually writes much better titles now. So the second time it's rewritten again, which much better human punchy title. And then we rewrite it a third time. And the third time we do two more things. One, we actually have a bunch of words that we think are silly that AI uses all the time. And we're like, so never use these words.
Oh, nice.
And we put that in there, never say phrases. And
your no instructions.
Your no instructions. That's part of the instructions. Never say these words. And then we also, this is also connected to a Google Sheet that we have that has all the keywords, the SEO keywords. Now, this is something that I added. I was like, oh, that would be nice just to automatically embed
automatically
SEO
do them. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we have a list of 150 keywords that we're tracking. And then we have a logic step that says, based on the article, give me the top 5 keywords that would be relevant for this article.
Okay.
And so we find the relevant keywords from the list and we embed them. And then the last step is rewriting the article the third time, which is here's 5, we include 5 new keywords and the no words, and it rewrites it a third time.
And so all your meta tagging, everything is done, which is huge because I've, having done blogging, it's time consuming, first of all. So this takes care of a lot of it, but then trying to get all of the publishing steps. So talk to me, like, once this is all done, do you have, like in this one, I know we're working on another one where they're like, they want to have the approval. You want to have a human eyes on it before it goes out.
Yeah.
Maybe some final editing.
Yeah.
But then once they've approved it and done the final edit, can it feed back in and publish to the site?
Yeah. So that's, we've done all of that. I'll walk through the last 2 steps here. We've done all of that in one step here, but you can definitely stop and break it up. Again, we take the article, we have an image style that we like, and then we generate an image for that. This one's like about manufacture or maybe supply chain or logistics of some sort. Anyway, so we're generating an image, unique image based on what the article's about. And then what this step does is it takes, you saw a little bit of that JSON encoding before. We take an example JSON body that our WordPress site likes, that it will take. There's a certain formatting. And then we say, hey, take this article, we give it the example. Here's the example WordPress. And it's just that long. It's not even very long. It's just JSON right here. It's basically has the article and then like a status, the category, anyway, a bunch of other things. And then we take that and we tell the AI, hey, take this article and this image and put it in that JSON body structure. And so then it writes it in the whole article in the structure for us. And it's about like a 500 word article that we write, 250 to 500 words. And then we have a step, again, the API call. This is our enhanced AI web WordPress posting endpoint, and we have authentication and everything, and we send it all in. Sorry, this is the the full article of what we just saw there.
Yeah.
And then it takes the whole thing and it pushes it up to our website, and then then it's live on our website. And then at the very end, I actually get an email every day about which article got posted and what it said.
Kind of as a validation final, like it did succeed.
Yeah,
right?
it did succeed. Here's the article. You can go click on the URL and find it, because we get a response from WordPress that shows the tag of where the article is.
Great.
And then I pass that along. So, but to your point, yeah, there is a step where basically this last 3 or 4 steps here from 14, 15, and 16, which wherever 16 is. Oh no, it's just 14. Yeah, 14, 15, and 16. 16 is we're actually logging off what the article is about, so we don't write it again. This actually connects all the way to that spot.
That's huge, right?
So we don't rewrite about the article.
And can repurpose content in different structures, different focuses, and then you can reuse prior content to build out better content in the future.
Yeah, we could create loops that do that also, for sure. So what we would do we'd create a button basically that people run through these last several steps here, and once they approve it, it would just take their content, ingest it into a JSON format, and push it up to the website. But again, it's logic that you can definitely engineer, but it's just so fast to do it this way.
How long did it take to build this out?
My first, it took 2 hours to build this out. And then but I did have to write a plugin because WordPress didn't do something that I wanted to do. I wanted to do something extra fancy on WordPress. And then I used AI to ask it how to write a plugin. And then I wrote a plugin and I installed it on WordPress.
So 3 hours with developing a plugin in addition.
With the plugin edition. Yeah. Now I've been using the system in AI for years, but so normally it'd take a little bit longer, but it was awesome. It's like, great. That's one less thing I have to worry about and do. And I know it's good content. Yeah. Now humans, really great humans can outperform the AI. It's just the time and the ROI that you're needing from the different functions that you're paying for. Yeah. And this is one that, a company may need just like standard processes to push through. They don't need it to be, they don't need to take over the internet with the best blog in the world. They just need good blogs based on good content that people are talking about. Yeah. And it's like, great, let's generate it and make sure that we have our information out there.
That's amazing. I'm gonna pivot us because we've got 10 minutes up till the hour, but I think we can go a little bit over because I'm just so intrigued in all of this, and I'm sure our audience is too. Can we dig into some sales processes?
Yes.
That's the second one that I get asked about all the time. It's always sales, marketing, service, and then you have some HR functions that we won't get time to those today, but sales is definitely another one of those that I see a huge opportunity in. So let's maybe go over some of those.
Yes. Great. Let's jump into probably the first. No, not this one. Sorry. Let me find. There's one other sales one that's not what I loaded up there. It's the lead scoring system. So one interesting thing that AI is in this whole world, this evolution is enabling people to do, is that there's a lot of things that people know they should do, they just don't do because they don't have time, or it's easy to not do it. And scoring leads that come into a company is one of those things. A lot of companies don't score leads. We're working with one of the largest real estate companies in Dubai, and they get 10,000 leads a month, and they had no scoring at all for any of these leads. It's just most companies, they get leads, they give them to the sales team. And the sales team's like figures out or they all just take them and they do them. But actually, when you actually score leads, you see a pretty significant jump in conversion of these leads. Because you're giving them to the right department and the right people, and you can even score them in all sorts of different ways. Now that's up to the sales manager of how he wants to score them, or the CRO, however the org's set up. But once you score them, and then you actually have a really powerful system that's really optimized for both your people, et cetera. And so what we built was a pretty quick system that takes it ingests a lead that came in through the website. So basically, this calls an API, calls our system, and
Mm-hmm.
it sends the lead in. The lead is this person who's 42 years old, annual income 110,000 a year, and then we connected a Google Sheet again. This doesn't look pretty here, but AI understands everything. This is a CSV file,
Okay.
but it's pulling directly from a Google Sheet. And I don't have that Google Sheet to demonstrate here, but it's just a nice table, clean table. It shows, everyone 35 to 44, they get a certain score. 45 to 54, they get another score.
Okay.
And
So you just put all your weightings into the spreadsheet.
yeah, and we just put it in a simple spreadsheet. And then we connect the spreadsheet in here. So this is pulling live from the spreadsheet whenever it runs. And then the sales lead comes in here, it grabs the scoring, and then it actually scores the lead. So this first step, score the lead right here. And
Mm-hmm.
it does this whole analysis and scores the lead. Overall scoring is 116 points. And then we have another one that categorizes after the score happens. So then we score it, and then we say, okay, based on this, if they're between this one didn't run again, but if they're between 80 points or above 80 points, they're high priority, 60 to 79, 40 to 59, etc. So there's different priorities that it gives it. And we're just outputting that, right? Like we're telling the AI, I think we have an instruction in it. No, it's part of the just general prompt is like, hey, only return low priority, moderate, etc.
Okay.
And then so it returns that, and then we actually have this is what we call a decision path or decision node. Basically, it's an if this then that. I don't know if everyone's familiar with those, but
Yeah.
it says if it's a high priority, run this flow. If it's a moderate priority, run this flow. If it's a low, run this one, and not a priority, run this one. And we actually run we give it different context of what we write. And we are writing this first one, we are writing an email autoresponder of where
Mm-hmm.
we wanted to push them. Like we wanted to push them to the company's blog or push them to a live agent's calendar to schedule an appointment right now,
Yeah.
right, for high priority. Or it just pushed internally for someone to call them
Yeah.
right away.
Yeah.
So, and we could just change the logic really fast and say, oh, here's the 3. And then we sent this whole JSON body back to their CRM, which I think was HubSpot. And HubSpot then took it and put it into its normal mapping. And
And
now
then
they
just
have,
does the assignment rules
uh-huh.
to team or individual from there.
Yeah. That was part of, writing the JSON and setting it up the right way. We've done a couple of versions of these, and everyone wants them slightly differently, and it's fine. It's
Right.
great.
Well, and
And you can.
that's why I love this, is because it's not like, oh, here's your set process, right? You've got
Yeah.
that flexibility to say, here's how we do it. I don't
Yeah.
have to reinvent my process to meet the tool. The tool is going to be able to be flexible enough to meet how we want to work.
Yeah. And that leads straight into this next one. So that was the lead scoring one. This next one is exactly that. In that the customers want a very customized way of reviewing sales calls. So this is
Mhm.
a sales call reviewer. There's a couple extra nodes in here just because I was messing around with stuff, which I do sometimes. But the first thing that this one is, it's a sales call analyzer. So what happens is someone gets, as I was mentioning, they hang up the phone after being on a call. It's hooked into HubSpot. As soon as the phone call hangs up, it triggers and it calls the system and it sends in the contact that we just talked to. And
Mhm.
then we go back and grab all the information from that contact in HubSpot so we can get a little more context. And then we transcribe the call with this.
So is this it's linked into like your Zoom recordings, or where is
Yeah.
it pulling that data from?
In this particular case, so we've done lots of different styles.
Mhm.
In this particular case, HubSpot is storing the audio file for the
Okay.
sales call. And there's
Yeah.
a setting inside of HubSpot, you can set that, or Salesforce. We're doing another one there, but they stored the audio file, but they don't give you the transcript. And we're like, okay, that's fine. Just give us the audio file and we'll transcribe it
You'll
ourselves.
transcribe it. Okay.
So then we send it here, transcribe the audio call. And then from there, we basically the sales manager sets these goals of how well someone did on the call, and we grade them. So
Mhm.
we say, hey, grade them based on communication clarity, client engagement, identifying their needs, discuss integration of our technology, and closing strategy. Now, there's a
Mhm.
lot of different sales strategies and methodologies,
There are, yeah,
and this is a super simple thing. You're like, okay, let's just rewrite it. And you could even use like a generally known sales strategy, and
right.
you're like, and some of the LLMs will understand it. Or most of them will understand. Most of the modern ones, GPT and Anthropic on their cloud will definitely understand it.
Yeah.
Um, so and then we actually give them a score, give the person a score, and then we added this little extra thing. We said, well, give them 4 ways to improve of how well they did. So again, that was one of those little extra things. Like, yeah, well, we don't just want to give them a score; we want to tell them how to improve.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's actually really great, like coaching. It wasn't like too harsh or mean on them. It's like, well, basically they should have, at this point in the call, they should have like asked for the close, or they should have asked a follow-up question. And it's giving like pretty good coaching. And we just limited it to 4 to make it so
Yeah, I
people,
mean, you can only consume so much, right? You're like,
yeah,
"Oh, I got to do 20 things. No, give me the top 3. Or
yeah, that's
what's
right.
the next thing I can use on that next call? Okay, real quick. Now I know to close sooner or ask for their budget, whatever it is, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so then we score them, we give them coaching, and then we do, once again, we package it up in a JSON format that HubSpot likes, and
Hmm.
then we push it back into, these ones aren't needed, those just extra. I experiment with stuff when I build it, but we just push it right back into HubSpot with this whole JSON body of like, here's the call, here's
And
the
you have the
information.
history. Yeah.
And we created 2 new fields inside their HubSpot for these, and we just pushed these right into those fields. One's call score and one's call coaching.
Okay.
And within 30 seconds of hanging up the phone call in HubSpot, they're now, the sales agent can see, how well they did and some coaching of how well they could do for the next call. So it's just like live feedback, right?
Yeah.
Like you could
Yeah.
never do that in real
No,
life.
you couldn't. And I'm working with another tool that does similar, but they do it for various leadership consulting, Sandler sales, like all of these different coaching. If you're going to do a training, it's the real time feedback, right? It's that
Mhm.
1 minute feedback that really starts to move the needle
Yeah.
in kind of upskilling your employees, and it's going to lead to future growth, right? Going
Yeah.
back
And
to
there's a
growth
lot of,
and profitability, right?
yeah.
You're hitting both of these.
Yeah, and improved conversion rates and skill training. And now we have another client that's doing. They're not just doing this; they're doing this for. They get about, I think, 250 calls a week.
Hmm.
Not as high as other ones, but that's a decent amount. And they're doing all these calls, and then what they do is we have another flow. So these are all basically an agent, right? Like this is an
Right.
agent.
Yeah.
We have it dumping all the outputs of every single sales person into a storage spot. And then every week we take all the calls and all the reviews of all the calls from all the salespeople, and we give a summary. We write up a whole summary of how well that salesperson did that week. And we even give good examples and bad examples of their sales calls. And so
Yeah.
once a week, the sales manager is now getting a report of his whole sales
Or
team and how well they
performance.
did.
Yeah. It's like your performance reviews are now what's great. It's good from both sides. Like from a leadership perspective, it's like, okay, it's cutting down my time and getting real data for performance reviews, but it also documents for the employees so that they're not caught off guard every quarter and going, wait, what do you mean I'm not performing or I am
Uh-huh.
performing? Like you've got data
Yeah.
behind it
Yeah.
that's trusted from both your leader and you can make those quick adjustments as you go and review that in your one-on-ones. I'm like, I see such huge valuable just from an employee engagement performance management, right?
Yeah.
On those
Yeah.
types of processes.
And now, and ultimately, to me, the best part is that this whole thing, was built in a matter of, we built this workflow, and it wasn't that long, but when we did it for a customer, it maybe took us like a week, like to build it for them. And
Just the
also
back
like,
and forth and
yeah, and making sure it was right and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
so it's like how quick, like you can just install new software. Again, software is becoming cheaper to just do and implement. And it's so empowering, because then it's like we keep going back and tweaking it for fun. We're like, oh, let's now, because then the owner's like, hey, I actually want to know this little nuance. And the unique thing is, this is a sale, or the customer we have is a sale where they're trying to sell something and buy something from whoever they contact. So it's like way different than, or it's just unique use case, right, of sales, where you're trying to sell and buy in one call, and there's different like things, that methods as people need to use based on if they're doing one versus the other. And it's just really, really, it's really flexible and easy to put it together. Like you wouldn't be able to get that.
No, not, like I said, it's just, that's why I say you've got the perfect company. It's just enhancing what you're already doing. You don't need to buy any other, systems or data sets. One of the things that I've seen is people are like, okay, we got to consolidate all our data and fix all our data, but this can pull from anywhere that's accessible through an API. As long as you have that, you're good to go. And then customize it to whatever flow you're trying to build.
Entirely.
Well, this has been amazing. I am like, we could keep going on this, because I'm sure that there's going to be, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of other follow-up as we push this out and have engagement. I'm sure I would love to do a follow-up and talk about some CX or some other ones that you've seen that are intriguing as we move forward. Is this the input form that you've got up here?
Yeah. So I just want to show, this is a silly example. We started Utah Tech Week last year, started a D&D group. I've never played before in my life, but we just built a fun little D&D generator system for the group. But so there's logic behind it. So all those flows that you just saw, we've been working on like a simple UI so that you can actually expose it to people without them looking through the whole workflow. And this one was a character generator. And so this is basically, you just have the name, the race, the class, and any other details. And it's going to come up with the whole story and the character. And I have no idea what we'll come up with. So hopefully it all works. But it's, the idea is that we've had people do marketing generation tools and all sorts of stuff. And this can be hosted anywhere. Like you take this form, you could put it on your own website, you can embed it in email, whatever you want to do with the form. So again, flexibility of where people are doing their inputs.
Yeah.
There we go.
I know my son would love this. He's a big D&D guy, and he's always talking about how they have to spend weeks building the story and prepping for their set. Like, I've never played it myself. Maybe I should, but
well, there you go. I've
got my character ready to go.
Yeah, we'll download the character for you right there. But,
I love it.
Yeah. Anyway, but it's the idea is that it's a simple UI that, and we've done all sorts of stuff with businesses with the forms. Just makes it easier. Again, it's all about being easy, making AI super easy to use. So that's it. Sorry, that was like a little,
little extra bonus at the end. I like to end on a fun note. I think that's awesome. So glad that we're able to do this and connect more, Brad. I think that we are going to have you come back. We'll talk about some additional use cases, because I think this is where everybody's getting hung up. It's like, I'm afraid of picking the right tool. I'm afraid of moving forward because I'm just not sure if I'm getting the right thing for what I need to do. This, in my mind, is the way that you prevent any type of risk in moving forward.
Yeah.
Because you're building it for what you need. So really appreciate you being on today and sharing these examples with everybody. I've kind of put down at the bottom our little ticker here, but we've been offering free consults, 45-minute consults for anybody that wants to just come in, learn a little bit more. Here's what I'm dealing with. What's the ideas? Go ahead and come to rizenext.ai and book time with us. We'd love to talk to you more about what you are challenged with, what questions you have, however we can be of help. Can bring enhanced AI in to be able to see how we can address any current challenges that you might be facing or questions that you have. So with that, I'm going to say thank you to everyone, and we're going to wrap up, and we'll talk to you next time. Thank you.
Thanks.